All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Today, I have a very special guest. Her name is Marcie, and she's here to share her journey, her issues with mental health and lifestyle changes and all that stuff. And again, I'm sure you guys will gain so much from this. So I'm looking forward to it. And so we're just going to jump right into it, Marcie. So tell everyone a little bit about yourself, just a little bit, and then we'll get into the all of the other details.
Yeah, well, thank you for inviting me. It's a
No
pleasure to be
problem.
here. And so, a little bit about myself is well, I live in Southern California and I'm married. I have three wonderful children. I'm a homeschooling mom.
Nice.
I'm a health coach. I'm
Awesome.
a chicken whisperer.
A chicken whisperer. Oh wow,
A
we're gonna have to
self
talk about that
proclaimed
another day
one.
because I want to know what that entails.
I know, right? Yep, chicken whisperer. And then I also show my dogs. I own Whippets, which is like a small greyhound, and so we go to dog shows.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
yeah, so that's kind of in a nutshell what I do and who I am. And I call myself the Desert Warrior because of my story and what I'm creating.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, speaking of story, tell us the story. Tell us what happened, how you got there, what you've been struggling with. Because I mean, I did go on your Facebook page and I did see a little bit, and we chatted a little bit prior to. So share with the audience. Tell us a little bit about your story.
So my story is that starting at around age 7,
Hmm.
now I grew up in a two-parent household, and starting around age 7, I started having health issues. I grew up with migraines, chronic migraines, couldn't ever find the cause of them. Around the age of 11, my dad had his first massive heart attack.
Mm.
He was in his 30s.
Wow.
And so that really just started the craziness of let's take care of dad. Now, I
Mm.
was homeschooled too. My mom ran her own business from home. And with taking care of dad, it was really tough because we then found out dad was a diabetic
Mm.
and probably caused his heart disease to begin with. He
Yep.
was diagnosed with congestive heart failure and basically it was a walking time bomb. So he had 80% blockage in one artery, 100% in the other one. There's nothing the doctors could do about it. And they're like, well, just, take your medicine, monitor your blood sugars, get to a healthy weight, all the things. So when I was a teenager, we started going on this health kick and like we went vegan.
Wow, that's awesome.
um, we did that for 3 years. Hardest thing ever.
Mm.
Um, and it was part of because of our religion, as
Right.
we were wanting to be vegetarian and try to follow the biblical guidelines, all the
Right.
things. And I was like, oh, this is really not for me. I really did not enjoy it. Felt deprived, right? But
Right.
so as all this was going on and dad was trying to get healthier, it was really hard with the whole relationship factor. A lot of things happened in that family. There was a lot of verbal abuse. There was some physical abuse that happened. And I really just look back at it now, knowing more about it. I see it as dad didn't really know how to reach out for help.
Mm.
Neither one of the parents knew how to control their emotional state,
Mm.
um, but that continued onward. Now I got married at a very young age. I got married out the gate at 18.
Wow.
That marriage was very physically abusive. I got married only for one reason.
Get out
Is
the house.
to run away, get away from it.
Hmm.
Um, well, that marriage was, of course, equally abusive, if not more, because he was very physically. I got thrown into a refrigerator. He tried to hit me with his car. He tried to drug
Wow.
me. My mom caught drugs in my drinks, and she's like, no, you need to get away from this,
Wow.
So that ended promptly 6 months later.
Hmm.
Well, just a few months later, then I have to get involved in another relationship because, it's that whole philosophy in your brain that you're not worthy of something, so you'll accept anything. So I got into another bad relationship that lasted for 7 years.
Wow.
And with that came my firstborn. She was the light of my life back then. And it's funny because I always said I never wanted kids until she came along. I was 21 when she was born.
Oh.
So she's awesome. She's getting ready to be 18 soon. So it's just like, oh my goodness,
I know, my goodness, time flies.
yeah. So with that, I stuck it out in the relationship for her because I thought that was the right thing to do,
Right.
not knowing that in the process it was hurting her.
Yeah.
Plus me. Mm-hmm. And so my ex actually did me a favor by going out and finding someone else and deciding he wasn't coming back home.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, I guess that's the end of that. And it just became so peaceful though. So got through that divorce. Not long after all that stuff happened, I met my current husband, and we met in 2009. We got married in 2012. So I really took my time with that one. Didn't want to play a repeat,
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. So he was around when my dad passed away on Father's Day 2011. Now, a year prior to this too, I actually also had a bad car accident that he was also around for. Ruptured 7 disc in my spine. I was told I would not be able to walk again. But he was there through it. I did 3 years of physical therapy just to be able to have the strength to be on my feet. I did not want surgery, and I did not want a wheelchair. That's literally what I was looking at. I put on a lot of weight after that. I had dieted on and off in the past. You know how that yo-yo thing works.
Yeah.
And at the time of the accident, I was actually an exercise geek. I was jogging around my block multiple times. I had a Greyhound at the time, so we would run. I was doing Jillian Michael workouts. I was working 2 full-time jobs and going to school.
Wow.
I was determined to better my life,
Yeah.
But so after the accident happened, I was told that I had to stop everything. And so my life got flipped up. And having a child at home, a young child, I was like, well, now what? So my boss thankfully was very understanding. He let me see physical therapy as often as I needed to, which was 3, sometimes 4 times a week.
Awesome. Yeah.
I was very thankful for him. So during all this stuff, my parents got divorced. Dad moved to Kentucky, and at the time I lived in Panama City, Florida. That's where I was raised.
Okay.
Parents got divorced. It was an ugly divorce. I was told that I was the reason they got divorced. Yeah. Long story short is I was always trying to be the fixer, the hero, and trying to meddle where I shouldn't have been truly. I was just trying to fix the relationship.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
you can't do what people don't want to do.
Absolutely.
That's the bottom line.
Yep.
But because of that, wanting to help, people saw me as the problem, the problem child. And I was like, no, that's not what I'm trying to do.
Right.
Emotionally, you can imagine what all this is doing to my mental health.
Exactly, because that was my next question. Like, I'm pretty sure. How did it impact your mental health?
It caused me to feel like I wasn't appreciated, like I wasn't wanted, like I wasn't loved. Of course, with my divorces, everybody was against it, and which is funny because it was super abusive. But the culture is you stay in a relationship because you have a piece of paper, and I'm like, but they're killing me emotionally.
Yeah,
literally killing me.
Wow.
I literally did not even want to be alive to be in that relationship, but I stuck it out anyways. And so I found out that is not healthy. That is not what God expects of us.
Absolutely not.
Murder is wrong, no matter how it happens. Is wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, but because of that, and then I'm finding a healthy relationship, everybody was against that for whatever reason, that whatever story it was that they had created in their mind.
Unbelievable.
So I really started feeding into that though. You know, you become like the people you surround yourself with.
Mm-hmm.
And because of my upbringing, believing that I was not worthy of a quality friendship, a quality circle of people, I was surrounded by people who were exactly like what I didn't want to be.
Mm-hmm.
I fed on that. I became that. Well, my husband was completely opposite. His family, his parents, completely opposite. And so when I started getting, around them more often, obviously we got married in 2012, and my health took a turn when we had our first daughter together in 2013. So by now we've got 2 kids, right? And because of my car accident issues, and my weight, because I was very overweight when I had her, and it was a high risk pregnancy. We almost lost the pregnancy several times, and I was just not. Yeah, it was just not a good place to be at the time,
Right.
physically, mentally. It was kind of a disaster because I wasn't healed from the past yet.
Yeah.
But she was born in October, so she'll be 7 here in a few days.
Oh my
But
gosh.
yeah, and then but with that birth came its own craziness. I had gestational diabetes with her. Um, yeah, the pain, of course, was crazy with my back. Well, you just kind of, at this time, I have moved up to Wisconsin. We got married in Minnesota, and my husband's from Wisconsin. So moved up there literally 2 months after my dad died. So that's kind of how it all happened. And then after she was born, we really, I was working. We found out we were pregnant again in 2015. And then, but during this time, I just kept gaining weight. My emotions were just not, I didn't know how to control my emotions. And so I just hold everything in. That was my way of dealing with the emotional instability. It was just hold it in, don't share, don't tell. Literally. And then what would happen is I would vent. And if I didn't vent, I would explode.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Right? Very bad temper. Very bad temper. And yeah, you do a lot of things without thinking when you hold stuff in.
That's
But
true.
you
That's
do.
true.
It's just part of the process,
Absolutely.
But our son was born in March of 2016. And the month before he was born, actually, we were on a youth camping trip in Wisconsin in February. Polar tundra, there's ice everywhere. And I, of course, had to slip and fall.
Oh my goodness, Marcie.
I know, right? The worst case scenario happened.
Oh my.
So I was put on bed rest at that point because I had re-injured my back in that process. And I had torn a bunch of ligaments in the fall. I was put on a belt, a support belt, and literally like everything in my pelvic area that held the pregnancy up failed. And so the belts were there just to keep the pregnancy up a little bit more, hold off another month until he was due.
Wow.
Had him, again, gestational diabetes with that one too. And it was just horrible. So the day after he was born, and he was like, they had to be very invasive with his birth. He started having issues with his heart rate. They had to use forceps because he got stuck. And I'm just like, oh my word.
Wow.
I was released from the hospital. The next day I was sent right back. And my blood pressure bottomed out. I was having just completely crazy things happen with my brain. And of course, back pain. Like I could not walk.
Wow.
And so I'm like, oh, this is not happening to me. Of course, they're watching me for mental, and I'm just like, I just want to be normal, And I chalked it up to, hey, you just gave birth. This is part of it. This is going to be postpartum, and that's what they started diagnosing me with, postpartum issues and all these things. And I'm like, oh, you'll get better. Well, then I saw, because my blood sugars were still out of control, I monitored them, and I finally got diagnosed with type 2 diabetes.
Wow.
My endo, this is probably about 2 months after my son was born.
Right.
My endocrinologist is like, well, Marcie, there's no hope for you. You're always going to be a diabetic. There's nothing you can do to reverse it. Just take your medicine, because I was put on insulin. Put on, like things like metformin. I was already taking narcotic pain relievers.
Right.
I
So
was
you're
already
bad.
on, yeah, I was already taking at least 2 of those. I was on antidepressants. I was on anti-anxieties.
Jeez.
Okay. So I'm up to 7 different medications at this point. She has the nerve to tell me that I'll never get better. And so I'm like looking at her and I'm just bawling, because I'm like, this is the last thing I need to hear.
Right.
So I sucked it up, and I refused to give myself a shot. My husband had to give me my shots that I needed 4 times a day.
Wow.
I saw a nutritionist, and they're like, here's a piece of paper that tells you what to eat. Eat this. Take your medicine.
And you're like,
I'm like, you don't care. I'm just a number to you. And that's how I came across. Now, whether or not they mean that was regardless, how I interpreted it meant everything.
right.
Okay. And there's nothing wrong with the medical community. I love and appreciate what they do with a passion. But I also know they only know what they know.
Exactly.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And they have red tape. So there's some things that they can't help with.
Mm-hmm.
So I came home from that appointment, and I told Matt, I was like, I don't know if I can do this. This is hard. We carried on for another few months. I lost my job.
Wow.
I went back to work in May of that year. I lost my job by October.
Now, did you lose your job because were you in and out with for appointments? Were you sick? Okay. All right.
Yeah, it was completely medical.
Okay.
Physically, I couldn't even walk into the office. They'd given me a wheelchair position, a handicap position up at the front. So I wouldn't have to walk a long distance, because everybody else got parked in the back.
Right. Okay.
So they parked me in the front, which was literally 20 feet away from the door.
Wow.
For me to get from my car to the office door, I had to hang on to something the whole way. So I could not stand up straight. It hurt so much. My desk was upstairs, so at least they had an elevator. But then again, getting another 20 feet to the elevator.
Yeah.
Finding my desk.
Right.
Right. Doing this whole back and forth thing. The drive to work was getting hard. What I found out is, through my health depreciating so badly, my eyesight was greatly affected. Now, I have astigmatism, hence why I wear my glasses. And so with the astigmatism, it's my pupils are football shaped, and it lets in too much light. Okay, so now it's better, but back then the light would literally blind me.
Wow.
Okay, and that's wearing sunglasses, really high-powered sunglasses and everything. So it got to the point where it was just burning all the time. Seeing it being sat in my desk was a computer job. So I was at a call center. We had 2 monitors, fluorescent lights above. I was always on the phone. And got to a point I couldn't even do that. I could not see the screen. They brought in a screen filter. That didn't help. And she's like, well, you can put an umbrella over your head. I'm like,
oh my goodness.
I'm like, and then when it came time, of course, I have to take my medicine.
Right.
Well, you can't just get up and leave.
Yep.
So I would let it go. The only time I take my medicine was on the weekends.
Wow.
So,
so that didn't help at all.
Oh, no, that doesn't. So my blood sugars were always out of whack, and I knew where it was taking me. I mean, I saw my dad at age 61. He was in the ground. He had gangrene before he died.
Wow.
Massive heart attacks. I saw him 2 weeks to the day before he died. Scariest thing.
Absolutely. So when did you start being diagnosed with the or when were you diagnosed with the mental health issues?
The same time frame as the diabetes came on.
Okay.
Yeah, literally the same time.
And how did you deal with that? Or were
I didn't.
Besides the meds?
Really didn't. The medications, like I started becoming very addicted to them. We switched medications
Mm,
like crazy, trying to find something that would work. Because if it wasn't severe depression to where I wouldn't even get out of bed, I would
mm,
want to sleep all day, right? And so they're like, well, let's switch your meds. They would put me on something else. It would cause high anxiety to the point I was having panic disorder. And they're like,
mm.
there's no happy medium for you. So I was just given a dose of Xanax, put on an anti-anxiety that would cause anxiety. And they're like, well, whenever you get too anxious, take Papa Xanax. So
Wow.
that's what I did.
Did it work?
I got addicted to them.
Okay.
They're a very addictive drug. And so I would pop them like 2-3 times a day because
Mm.
the minute I felt that discomfort, I wanted to put a Band-Aid on it.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. Now, were you seeking therapy throughout all of this
Mhm.
time period?
Yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah.
how often did you go?
I was seeing my practitioner at least weekly. But usually it was about monthly. They prefer to see me closer to every 2 to 4 weeks, depending on how I was doing.
Right.
You know,
And how long were your sessions?
about when they actually got in the office, probably about 5-10 minutes.
Really?
Yeah, they would put me in a room for like 30 minutes waiting on them. They come in, it's like get a quick little update. Okay, let's adjust your meds. All right, bye. See you next time.
Okay, so that wasn't like that was just like a doctor's visit, I guess, but you
More
didn't have
so,
any. Okay,
yeah.
so but did you have any, like, did you actually seek, or were you advised to seek therapy or counsel or
Oh
anything
yeah,
like
as far as
that?
counseling goes, yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I sought one out. Actually, I saw the one I actually saw. Um, we did not click. Very, very, very. I felt like I was the problem. Is
Mm.
how it came across. So I stopped immediately based on that.
Wow.
I was like,
Okay.
I refuse to be made into the problem here. I'm
Yeah.
coming
Yeah.
here to get assistance with how to
Right.
process these emotions, not to be felt like I'm being bullied into a pile again.
Right. Right. Because
You
that's the
know,
last thing you need right now. Because you're
exactly.
trying to sort through your issues and kind of, like, you know what I mean. The last
Yeah,
thing you need is for you to feel like, oh, you're responsible for them. That's
exactly.
not a way to heal.
No, it's not. No, it's not. And they just didn't know my style. I think
Right.
that's really what again, they were doing their job.
Right.
It just didn't work for me. That's the bottom line. So that
were you ever able to find someone that you clicked with?
no, not in that area anyways. I mean, this is Wisconsin, so there wasn't many to choose from to begin with. That
Okay.
was local that would take because we were getting, assistance from the state at that time,
Okay.
and who would take the assistance from the state without asking out of pocket because
Wow.
financial hardships, right? I had no
Hmm.
income. My husband, we were barely making ends meet. And it was just a really rough place in our time. It was like,
Wow.
man. So, as far as what changed is when we decided to sell our house in Wisconsin and move to California in the fall of 2017.
Okay.
And during that move, of course, I couldn't really do much anyways. I was just along for the ride, So
Right. Right.
we moved in with my husband's family,
Hmm.
who I'm very thankful for. They put us up when we were in a hardship. And of course, I couldn't work. My husband had to wait for he's a nurse. So he had to wait for his nursing license out here to be approved. That took like 4 or 5 months.
Hmm.
So he didn't even get it done until November. And then he didn't even find work until the following January.
Wow. That took a while.
Yeah, it did. So we moved out here in September. We had started the process of this like in June or
Right. Oh,
July,
wow.
And so it's taken a while. But in between this is when actually all the things hit the fan,
Right.
and so that's when I started my journey with my coach the end of October. And so it's right in the middle, zero income.
Wow. So tell
Yeah.
me what made you start that journey? Because I mean, you mentioned it to me earlier when we were talking,
Yeah.
but for the audience, tell them what made you start that journey with your health coach.
What made me start the journey was really just being sick and tired of always being sick and tired, always being in pain, always having this mental health overload. And it took a night of near suicide for my husband to finally catch on how serious of a situation it was. because I like to keep things hidden. I
Mm-hmm.
thought I believed that I was an actual expert on keeping my life hidden.
Wow.
I didn't know how much people actually picked up on that, but yeah, I pretended as much as I could. I thought I was a good actor. And with that, I'll never forget that night. It was like 3, 4 in the morning. I was out in the main room because I told him go on to bed. I'll just sleep on the couch.
Mm.
And I was in tears. I was in a rock bottom place. Like, you couldn't get any darker in my mind than I was that night. And I was just constantly hurting in some way. And I was just like, God, just let me go. I don't want to fight this fight no more. So I fought it for years at this point. And I firmly believe that there was no hope. I firmly believe that I did not have a purpose. I firmly believe that God just didn't want to answer my prayer about being whole.
Wow.
And I knew that this was affecting my family. It was definitely affecting my kids. It was affecting our marriage. And I was pushing everyone out of my life. I was trying to protect them. But in doing so, I was hurting them.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
just didn't realize how much I was doing that. And so that night, Matt came out to me and he gets on his knees and he's like, Marcie, I wanted to see you not feel this way.
Right.
Says, I know you're hurting.
Wow.
And what can I do for you? And this is the first time that he'd really just come up to me and just became fully open. And I felt like I could finally trust talking to him about it. I had never told him what I was going through. I was trying to keep it hidden, because in my family, mental health is a stigma. You get disowned over this.
Mm-hmm. I think for a lot of families, that's what it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a stigma. No one thinks about it, or they don't want to talk about it, or it's like, oh, it'll go away. It's a phase, but it's an actual illness.
It is. It
And
is.
the
It's
same way
just,
we
it's
see,
hidden.
yes, absolutely. And I wish like the same way we see like diabetes or hypertension or any of those things, and we try to get help or whatever, seek a doctor, is the same way we need to do for mental
Absolutely.
health issues.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah. And so
Wow.
I was trying to protect being disowned by not talking about it, because anytime I
Yeah.
did try to talk about, hey, I'm not feeling right,
Right.
this is what I'm feeling. Oh, you're just crazy. You're just making it up.
Right.
That's what I was told. And I'm like,
Jeez.
okay, maybe I am. Maybe I am crazy.
Right.
I believed it. Okay. Because these are my peers. So anyways, he was the first person who I felt safe. And so I told him, I was like, well, if this is all that there is for me to live for, I don't want a part of it.
Mm.
He says, well, he says, do you feel like that you may, end your life? I was like, I'm pretty close to it. I said, you stopped me. Basically, is what happened.
Wow.
Because I was debating about it. I was arguing with God about it. I was like,
Wow.
you stopped me. And he says, well, before you do anything else drastic, because it's kind of a non-comeback, he said, would you promise me one thing to try that you haven't tried yet? I was like, okay, I'm open. What's your idea? Well, would you work with a coach that you talked to a few months back? And she's a personal friend of his. They grew up in church together. So I knew that if he trusted her, she's safe.
Right.
And I'm like, man, I talked to her 6 months ago. I don't believe that this is going to fix me. The professionals haven't fixed me. Medication hasn't fixed me. I have all these reasons why I can't be fixed, right? Like, what does she have that's so special? He's like, I don't know. He says, but she seems pretty hopeful that you can improve something. Why don't you try? And I was like, fine, I'll give it 30 days. I'll work with her. If it doesn't work and I don't see any results, I'm done. Please do not get in my way again.
Wow. That's serious, Marcie.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So the next day I called her up. Her name is Felicity. And she happens to be a nurse too.
Oh, so am I.
Okay. Yeah, I got a bunch of nurses I'm surrounded with, I'm telling you. But she's also a pastor's wife.
Oh, come on. Okay, there we
Oh,
are.
there we go. She's also a pastor's wife too. So she has a heart. And so I called her. I told her why it happened. I was like, all right, girl, I give you 30 days to change my mind. Let me see what this can do. So I started with her, and I was determined to be the most rebellious client she'd ever deal with. I was determined. And I'm like,
Wow.
I will prove it will not work for me. I'm that
Wow.
special. And she's like, she says, I just ask that you just go all in and just be all in with everything that what I coach is about. She says, I know you'll see results, but you got to trust it. You got to trust me. You got to trust the process. Even if you don't believe in it, just do it. Let it prove it wrong. Right. Okay. So the first week, I tried not to doing the whole program. I tried not doing what she asked me to do. And she would connect with me every single day. Hey, how you feeling? I'm still not feeling better. Well, have you eaten all your food? Have you drank all your water? How's your sleep been? How's your mental management been? Okay. So she would catch me on these little things that mattered.
Right.
Well, the next week I went all in. By the end of that second week, I went from needing Matt to help me sit up out of bed to go to the bathroom because I was in bed all the day.
Mm-hmm.
I got to the bathroom by myself that day.
Wow. That's
No
awesome.
migraine for the first time since I was 7.
Wow. Wow.
And I'm like, there's no way. This has got to be a fluke. This has got to be a fluke. It's just a good day. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It happened again the next day and the next day. And my back started feeling better. And my blood sugar started balancing. My mental health started improving. I stopped having these temper tantrums. It's just an outburst of unprocessed emotions. That's what it
Right.
is. And I understand that now with littles. I get it. But I was able to learn how to manage my emotions, my feelings in a healthy way,
Hmm.
that it was safe to feel them. Let them sit inside of you for a moment.
Right.
Figure out what I'm really looking for as a result of those emotions. What is the
Mm-hmm.
emotion trying to tell me? And then let it go. And so I've learned how to do that with different tools and exercises and support, and I'm just like, wow. So here I am 3 years later, or almost 3 years later. My life is completely different.
That's
You know, I,
awesome.
I found hope. I found a reason for being. I found purpose
Mm-hmm.
in my life. I love my life. And you go from, looking at a wheelchair. I don't need no wheelchair. I'm out here, zip lining and rock climbing and running my dogs. And
Yeah.
the doctors call me a walking miracle because they don't understand how it's possible. They don't understand how I was able to completely get off of my medication. They don't get it. And I'm just like, it's not a magic pill. It's just healthy habits. That's literally what it is. And having a supportive community, having a coach that will hold me accountable to what I say I want, and having the education so that I know what to do. And
Wow.
that's really what it's all about. And girl, let me tell you, oh my word,
Hmm.
it's completely different. It's
Thank
completely
God.
different, you know.
Thank God.
And I'm so thankful. For years I prayed for an answer. For years I prayed for a solution. I had no idea it was my coach. It took a crazy dark night.
Wow. Thank God.
Yeah,
Wow. I'm happy that your husband was there like that night, you know what I
me
mean?
too.
And to remind you about that coach that you spoke to like 6 months prior, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? It wasn't like something that happened yesterday, but it was
right.
a while back, and grateful that you were willing to try, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? And
And the
something as
thing
simple,
that,
go ahead,
oh, I'm
go ahead.
sorry.
No, go
The
ahead, no worries.
the one thing that really connected is because she always shared what was possible. She
Mm,
always shared a story about someone who had won. And I was like, man, I really, and it just wakes you up. It's like, I really want that.
You wanted it to be you. You wished for that
I
to be
really
you.
did. And I wasn't going to work with her I was not looking to lose weight. I did not. I always subscribed to the fact that I was going to be a fat girl for life.
Mm.
Okay. I was almost 300 pounds.
Wow.
5'4". I've lost 145 pounds in the process.
Wow. And that's a side effect of all the
That's a
stuff that you
side
were
effect.
doing. Yeah.
Yes.
So you were eating right, you were exercising. Tell I know we're showing time, but like, what else you were eating right, you were exercising. What else? Anything else that you were doing that made you that contributed to this whole turnaround?
Well, the funny thing about it is I still don't have an exercise routine because of my back, injury. There's very limited things that I can physically do with exercise, right? I
Wow.
can't do push-ups. I
Mm-hmm.
just physically can't do them.
Right.
I had to be really careful when I run. I have to know when to stop.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I have to be really careful with weightlifting. Even to this day,
Mm.
I'm very careful with it.
Okay.
But I have never used exercise as a weight loss tool.
Hmm.
What I do now is that because of the energy and the hope and how much less pain I have, because the pain is pretty much non-existent, unless I've really
Wow.
worked myself hard that day doing
Yeah.
something like right now we're packing up our house. That's irritating a few things.
Right.
But, as far as motion, healthy movement goes, when I feel energetic, which is pretty much all the time, I'll just randomly go out and say, okay, I'll clean this area of the house. I'll pack this box. I'll go outside and rake up the yard or run with my dogs or whatever the case is. To me, that's exercise,
Absolutely.
you know?
And I think oftentimes we want exercise to be something that's regimented, like in the gym or some program, and we forget that just the daily movements that we do is something. It
Yes.
can definitely count for something.
Yeah. And I have friends who love exercise. They love the gym. And that to them is a reward, is like their adrenaline. I don't have that relationship with that.
That's okay.
And so it's like, exercise looks different to everyone, just like health looks
Absolutely.
different to everyone.
Absolutely.
And, just obtaining optimal health and chasing that dream, that's what it's all about.
Amen. Yeah, absolutely. So, what can you say to that one person who is struggling with their mental health right now and who feel like they're in a dark there's no hope. They feel like, what's the point and all that jazz. Like, what would you say to that person right now?
Based on personal experience, what has helped me is to find your tribe. Find the people who speak your language, but don't keep you stuck in a dark place.
Hmm.
Like with my tribe, we're all part of a big community now, and it's like when you're having a rough moment, you have a trusted partner who is like, "Hey, I get what you're feeling. Let's talk about that so you can process it. Dive in, lean in, and they help you carry that weight. They're not, a coach is not there to tell you what to do and like get after you if you don't do it.
Right.
A coach is riding shotgun on this big journey of life,
Right. Right.
and they're
Absolutely.
in the mud pit with you,
Absolutely.
you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
That's awesome.
finding the tribe has been my biggest blessing, is just finding a people that are positive, have what I'm after. That's the other thing. Finding people who have walked the journey and have come out on the other side. Those are the people you want to chase.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, how can people follow you and follow your journey? Or and now I know you're a health coach. How can they reach out to you? Where can they find you on social?
Yeah. I'm on Facebook. So when you go to facebook.com, you can do a search for Hope with Marcie.
Okay.
I'm also on Instagram with the same.
Okay.
Otherwise, you can email me using my first and last name at gmail.com.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much, Marcie, for sharing your story with us. It's an amazing story, a beautiful story. And I really do hope someone is able to gain some inspiration and some encouragement from this story. because it's amazing. It really is amazing. So happy that you're here right now when I get to speak to you
Yes.
about it. So thank you so much again. Have a wonderful day. And you guys who are watching, thank you so much for watching. And I really do hope that you are able to gain so much from that. So please comment below, reach out to Marcie if you feel like you're in a similar position. People are out there who are suffering this along, who or been either been through the journey or who are in it right now. And you can definitely reach out. You are not in this alone. All right. So
Amen.
thank you very much. Thank you very much, and have a great day.